Story 1. I do my shopping at the exact same time every week in a large grocery store. There's a little old woman who usually does her shopping around the same time. She has some mobility issues and doesn't buy much. So after seeing her having to flag down help every time she wanted something from a shelf above shoulder level a few times, I approached her and asked if she'd like a shopping companion. It took me under 10 minutes to get everything on her list, and she was very gracious and grateful. She even offered me a few dollars, which I didn't accept, of course. I didn't give this a second thought. I wasn't raised to question whether you take 10 minutes to help an old woman in the grocery store or not. It's just what you do. So the next week when I saw her again, I asked if she'd like someone to shop with her, and she was again very grateful for the help. It became our usual routine that whenever I spotted her, usually every other week or two, I'd give her a hand. One week, I didn't do my shopping at the usual time. I worked a little late. When I came in, there was a big fuss at the customer service desk, involving my shopping friend and a young man. I started to go over to be sure everything was all right and heard the young man saying, "What do you mean no one with that name works here?" She had a name tag on. My mom saw the name, right, Ma? And she says she did. The Flomox customer service employee is saying he really doesn't have anyone by that name who works there. The young man is going, "What do you mean? Did you fire her? She was here last week, right, Ma?" And I realize it's my name and the potential source of confusion. I go in for shopping immediately after work, and my work uniform is a maroon shirt and khaki pants with a name tag. The grocery store I shop at has white shirts, any kind of pants you want, and a maroon apron with the store's logo, so it's a little similar. I go over, and she gleefully cries, "There you are. I want you to meet my son." And he started telling me how grateful he is that I was taking time out of my work to personally help his mom shop. Now that he's in town, he wanted to say thanks in person and give me some money or at least put in a good word with your manager at the store. So could you point them out so I can speak with them? Not that one though. That one thought you'd been let go. I explained the confusion, and they were both so touched. It was one of the most poignant moments of my life, and definitely the most meaningful I've ever had in a supermarket. Story 2. This happened on my lunch break earlier today. My dad's 60th birthday is coming up, so I decided to get him some new copies of his vinyl records to play on a new record player he had just got himself. I decided to go to a well-known bookstore chain that has a surprisingly good music selection in the back of the store. I walk to the music section at the back, and just before I start browsing for what I need, I notice that the register and computer are off, and the desk is completely empty. Usually, with music, you check out here and not in the rest of the store. I walk over to the register and inspect to make sure it's closed. Oh well, I guess health and safety policy means checkout is up front. Here I notice that there are 3 other people in the music section. 2 guys are sifting through the compact discs, and a third man is a little bit behind where I'm standing, holding a pack of compact discs in one hand and staring at his phone. I begin my browse through the vinyl records, and I end up calling my mom and have her search through my dad's collection to make sure I'm not buying a copy of something he already has in good condition. So I'm there going through the albums, reading out their names to her. Ultimately, the call lasts around 8 minutes. Just before hanging up, I notice the man with the compact discs has moved a little bit behind me, the same compact discs in his hand while he's kind of staring around. I don't think anything of it and spend another 2 to 3 minutes there before making my final selection. With my vinyl records, I once again check the closed register, just to make sure it's closed and the sensors in the walkway won't go off when I move to the other part of the store. Before I step off, the compact disc guy approaches me. Guy. Okay, I'm ready to check out. Me. Oh yeah, it looks like checkout is up front. I begin to walk out of the music section. Guy. Oh, up front. Okay, I see. I walk through the store, and I hear him walking to catch up with me. Here, I realize what has happened. I veer off to the nearest bookshelf and pull the first book I can off the shelf and pretend to go through it. I see him stop behind me again to wait. I give him a weird look, and we awkwardly stare at each other for a few seconds before I see it click on his face. He makes a sharp breath and then scurries away towards the front register. This man had wasted a good 15 or so minutes standing behind me waiting, the whole time he was ready to check out. He has to be the most patient man ever. I guess my phone call, picking up albums and saying their names, then putting them down, sounded like inventory? I feel kind of bad for him. But then again, it's not like I did anything wrong. Story 3. It's my first time on here, so bear with me, and I think this fits here. This takes place about 8 or so years ago, but I tell this story every so often, so it's still fresh to me. I worked as a contract information technology consultant. Basically, I worked for an information technology group that got contracts to help with information technology projects that were too large for the in-house information technology department. We were the boots on the ground while they continued day-to-day operations. Most of the time, we worked with a library in a major city that had multiple locations. They would send 1 or 2 of their in-house technicians with us to let us in the location's branches, to show us where stuff was and what was being upgraded or replaced, then let us have at it. I should note that the in-house technicians only work on the computers and not for any of the branches themselves, thus they can't check out books or anything else for people. About halfway through this one project, we were going to a branch that was under construction. The outside was being completely redone, with scaffolding and tools all over the place. It was surrounded by chain link fencing and several barriers of rope, construction tape to allow workers in but keep the general public out, along with lots of signs posting caution construction. The inside of the building had been painted recently, so there were no tables, no chairs, and the bookshelves were completely empty with thin clear plastic painter's tarp over them, not a book, computer, or digital video disc in sight. This will come into play in a bit. Cast. Me is me. Craig is the in-house technician. Fred is the construction crew foreman. Old Bat is Old Bat. Early in the morning, Craig and our 5 technicians, including me, showed up to the branch before the construction crews got there. We met outside, then we all went into the building together. Craig had an odd look when we all walked in. To our surprise, there were no computers or furniture to be seen anywhere in the building. Craig, not wanting to tell us to go home, contacted his boss by phone, who said to wait. Maybe it would show up in an hour or so, as sometimes deliveries were late. Plus, if they sent us home, they would have to reschedule this branch and pay us for another day's work to come back. So we waited. Then Fred the foreman showed up, vest, hard hat, and all, along with his crew. Fred talked to Craig, saying he told the library contact that the furniture wasn't finished yet and maybe it would be done by today, but he'd get a couple of guys right on it. Another call to the boss. Wait some more, maybe they'll be quick. Okay, but still no computers. While Craig is on the phone and before Fred walks off. Fred, let Craig and your guys know. If you need to leave, let me know. I'll get hard hats for you so you can go out through the site, since it's the only way in or out. Me. Okay, cool. Thanks, Fred. If a delivery truck gets here, it might be our computers. Let us know if those get here, then we might need them. Fred, with a friendly smile, yep, no problem. After a couple of hours of us just twiddling our thumbs waiting for the furniture and the computers, Craig and I were talking about video games, as guys do, and he stops mid-sentence and looks to his left with a face stranger looking than this morning's grimace. I'm sure mine wasn't any better. This little old lady had walked right through the open front doors of the building, walking past all of the outside workers like they weren't even there. I'd have thought she just came from church with the way she was dressed. Dark cotton open front sweater with a white undershirt, and shin-length skirt with her gray hair all done up. I'm sure both Craig and I had the same thought. What in the world? We both walk up to her. Conversations as follows. Craig, ma'am, can I help you? Old Bat, gruffly, yes, I just want a digital video disc. Pointing to the back of the room at an empty bookshelf. Craig, ma'am, there's nothing back there. This library branch is closed. Old Bat, oh, it's fine. I just want a digital video disc. They're right back there. Pointing again. Craig, ma'am, the shelves are empty. Look around. There's nothing here. Old Bat, well, you work here, pointing a crooked finger and slightly stabbing at his identification badge on a lanyard that has the library logo on it. So, show me where they're at. Craig? Ma'am, we are information technology. We don't work at this branch. We only work on the computers. And this is a general employee badge. Even the administrators have them. Old Bat. See, you do work here. I want a digital video disc. Craig. Frankly, none of us work here, ma'am. There aren't even any computers here to check you out. Look as he gestures to the empty space where the checkout would normally be. There's no furniture, no staff. Didn't you read the multiple signs on the way in? This branch is closed. Ma'am, you need to leave. Old Bat. I know they are back there. I just want a digital video disc. They are right over there, points to the empty shelves again, and starts to walk in that direction. Craig puts his arms out to block her path. Me? How'd you even get in here, ma'am? There's a construction site out front. There are times when I have perfect timing, as this is the same moment when Fred comes strolling by, waves at us, stops, and then looks at Old Bat. I should mention Fred is about average height, but built with thick cable-like arms. Not bulging muscles, but looks like he could carry 250 pounds of anything without worry and could intimidate just about anyone if he needed to. Fred, to Craig, is she with you? Craig, no, she just walked in from the street. Old Bat, I just want a digital video disc. I know right where they are. I've been here before. Craig, not in a while, you haven't. This branch has been closed for 3 months. Fred, in a stern voice, ma'am, how'd you get in here? This is an active construction site. You had to pass by at least 2 or 3 of our roped and taped off areas that boldly say do not cross. Did you just waltz past all of them? You can't be here. Old Bat, I just want a digital video disc, and I know they're here. Fred, first off, this building is closed and under construction. Second, no, they don't have any digital video discs here. They are all out today. Please follow me, ma'am. She looks like she wants to say more, but Fred puts out his hand toward the door and starts to walk her out. He then grabs a nearby hard hat and puts it on her. Old Bat, don't put that on me. I just had my hair done. Fred puts it on her anyway and walks her out to the street. They walked off the site the way Old Bat had come in. They passed by the barriers that looked partially taken down or just knocked over. Fred's face went from stern to sour in about half a second when he saw them. By the time they walked out the building's doors, I couldn't hear the conversation Fred and Old Bat had, but the large windows on that side of the building gave me a prime view of the entire chain of events. Old Bat and Fred started having a long and argumentative conversation just outside the chain fence. They were apparently loud enough that the law enforcement officers from the precinct across the street came over to see what was the matter. She was yelling and pointing at Fred, the building, and then at the law enforcement officers. Fred looked like he was explaining the situation, pointing to the construction and the multiple "do not cross" tapes and signs she had taken down on her trek in. 5 minutes later, Old Bat is being walked over to the precinct when she turns around about halfway there and gives Fred a rude hand gesture. The law enforcement officer lightly puts his hand on her back and gently but firmly turns her back around and into the precinct. About 30 minutes later, we were sent home. A month later, I saw Craig at another location. He said he found out that Old Bat was arrested for trespassing and was banned from any library branch for a year. I've said this many times during my tenure as one of their consultants. How do you come to the library and not read the closed signs? Edit or note, if she was less lucid or this seemed like it was dementia, I would not have posted, as I don't believe it would be right of me to do so. This was a woman who just did not believe us that they were not there in the far back corner shelf, and to hack if anyone would tell her otherwise. Story 4. So my fiancé and I were in a craft store. We still have almost a year until the wedding, but me being me, I already have most everything planned, booked, and paid for. This store was having a 50% off sale on a lot of wedding items that was ending soon. So my fiancé picked me up right after work, and off we went. He's still in his uniform blue polo and dark blue jeans. Unbeknownst to us, this craft store has a super similar uniform. At one point, we separate to find wicker baskets. I find them first, and he makes his way to me. He tells me about some lady that asked him a question, but he didn't really know how to help her. He's the type to ask strangers their opinions on things, so he didn't think anything of this lady asking him questions, just felt bad that he couldn't help. He then went on to say he stopped a different lady to ask her a question, so that's just a normal thing in craft stores, apparently. Well, I'm taking my sweet time looking at these baskets and asking him all sorts of inane questions like, are these too big? How do you feel about the shape of this one? Is this brown color too dark? The whole time, there's a lady at the end of the aisle staring in our direction and pacing. I kept accidentally making eye contact. It was uncomfortable. I finally found what I wanted, and fiancé and I went the other way down the aisle because the lady was kind of creeping me out. Well, lo and behold, the lady goes down the next aisle and catches up to us. She, somewhat timidly, asked where the block letters were. Neither of us knew, but I told her I had seen them recently, so they had to be around this area. She just kept looking at my fiancé and gave me a weird, perplexed look. I explained that we weren't sure exactly, but they were definitely around this area. Fiancé said something in agreement. It was at that moment that I realized she thought he worked there, and that's why she was so confused that I'm answering for him. This is also the moment that I could tell she realized he did not work there. She stood paced there waiting for like 10 full minutes while I looked at baskets so she could ask the wrong person a question. We all had a good, awkward laugh, and then my fiancé tells me that it was the same lady that asked him for help earlier. Kudos to that lady for being patient and polite when she thought I was hogging the worker and answering for him. Laugh out loud. Roles reversed, I'd have been a little annoyed if I was trying to ask a worker a question and someone else kept butting in and giving vague non-answers.